Hello, everybody. Welcome back
It's
to the Macaw
Guardians
Podcast
of the
Universe.
Galaxy, Volume 2.
We are doing probably our favorite movie of the entire
All
universe
time.
of Marvel.
All time.
This is
it's
your
not
favorite movie of all
it's
time?
It's probably, if I had to sit down and do it, it might be in my top 10 of all time.
Really? Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. This is a great movie.
Thinking about that lately.
Well, there's the weird, so when you sit down to be like, there's the best movies ever made, like your Godfathers. And then there's like your favorite movies, which could range from, your favorite movie could be something trash
Could be
and you
Shrek.
even know it. It could be Shrek.
And you know what? Not a bad decision.
No, but this one kind of gets into that category for me too, where I go, okay, even if someone does, I'm not going to argue that it's the best movie ever made. I will argue that it's one of the best Marvels, like by a long shot. This is A+ Marvel material. It's right up there with Endgame, and probably sandwich it between Endgame and Spider-Man: Far From Home. Like it's up to that caliber. It's characters, it's story. Really cool visual effects.
It's funny. It's got action. It's got heart. It's got emotions.
Yeah.
It's got everything you want in a movie.
Yeah. And it's got a great soundtrack. Mm-hmm. Which, speaking of the soundtrack, just to jump ahead, because this is Guardians. Come on. We got to do whatever our heart feels. I remember when we saw this movie, and we saw it in theaters. We were engaged at this point.
We saw it with my dad, my sister, and my brother because this is one of the biggest Martinez family movies of all time. And I know I said this when we did the Guardians episode. So I saw Guardians at that Brookings Theater, which is like a sacred theater to me.
Yes.
So a part of that, the reason is because I've been with family.
Yeah.
So it's like, I got to experience this next movie with my family.
Yeah.
And when the third one comes out, it's a family movie.
Although, are we going to be able to wait until all of our schedules align?
I would make that sacrifice for them.
You would? Okay.
Yeah.
Apparently,
it's a Martinez family movie too now.
IT.
Yeah.
The movie.
The movie It.
But yes, we were watching the movie, and I remember thinking when the soundtrack was going, because the first movie, like most of the songs that played, I was like, oh, cool. Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. Oh, cool. And this one kind of has a different effect. It was a lot of music I'd never heard before. Mm-hmm. And now they're complete bangers, and they're like 100% grade A songs.
And they've made a lot of money for the bands.
Yes. I know that Southern Nights, I don't think that was a big Glenn Campbell hit.
And it's probably huge now.
And now on Spotify, it's his number one.
Oh, wow.
So I'm pretty sure. I would have to double check that. But
this movie also, because I liked the first movie so much, when I went into theaters to see this Volume 2, to me, I said this several times, and it was like, the movie's already good. And I haven't even seen it yet. Yeah. That's how, and it's very biased opinion.
No, but we can say it, like Guardians 3 is great. I love Guardians 3.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yep.
But anyway, all of this to say, like the first soundtrack of Guardians 1 was it was just very recognizable and a lot of really famous songs. And this one, I'm sure a lot of these songs were chart toppers and stuff like that, but I don't think they've really stood the test of time.
Yeah.
And then this movie comes out, and the first time I watched it, I was just very slightly like, oh, I wish more of the songs I knew. I wouldn't even say I was disappointed in the movie or anything like that, but I was like, oh, I wish I knew those songs. But now when I watch the movie, I know those songs so well, and now those songs have like a really special place to me.
Yeah.
So it's actually really cool. It's like it is like taking those songs and putting them number one on Spotify. Like it just makes them these huge songs. This is what got me into ELO, Electric Light Orchestra. Yeah. That first song. What is that song called? The first song on the
Mr. Blue Sky.
Yeah.
I would say what I think is the best placed song in the movie is when they go to Ego's Planet for the first time and that George Harrison song's playing. I forget what it's called. But it's about God. But it's about gods.
It's like, about George Harrison like trying to find
all
a
of
god.
Jesus, Vishnu, all of them.
Yeah.
And it's just so beautiful. And it's like, this is perfect. This is perfect part for a movie.
Although the best the best thematic song, you got to go Brandy.
Yeah. Oh,
Which that
come
one,
on,
that
come
one,
on.
of course, I knew.
Yeah.
But
I actually didn't know that one.
you didn't know that one?
No, I've never heard
was,
that song.
I was every time that was on the
That's
radio,
what I
that was
like-
like, oh, turn it up.
Because
Song.
like you saying the first time you saw it, there was a small part of you that was like, man, I kind of wish I knew these more.
Mm-hmm.
For me, seeing it for the first time and really liking all of the songs that they put in there, it's like cool. New
Yeah.
soundtrack to download and listen to of songs I've never heard of before.
Yeah. Well, I remember Baby Driver came out the same year, and that's such a soundtrack heavy movie as well. And I remember that one too. I was kind of like, I wish I didn't know hardly any of the songs, and I was like,
I haven't listened to that soundtrack
oh, it's good.
since seeing the movie
But
one time.
I was just like, I kind of wish that I knew these more. And then I watched it a second time, and I was like, oh, these songs are so cool.
Do we own that movie?
No,
Oh, okay.
but I saw it twice in theaters.
Can't
Because
watch it anymore.
I loved it. We can't watch. Oh, because of Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
We can still watch it.
Movie's
that was
canceled. But John Hamm's in it, so we can watch it.
John Hamm and
Jamie Foxx.
and
Right?
Well, who directed? Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
It's an Edgar Wright movie. Come on. It's such a good one. Okay. Guardians 2. It's written and directed by the one, the only James Gunn. He wrote and directed Guardians of the Galaxy 1. He's going to write and direct Guardians of the Galaxy 2, hopefully 3. He's going to do, hopefully he's going to write and direct Volume 4. Hopefully he's going to write and direct Volume 5, and hopefully 6, and then maybe they'll round it out with a perfect 7. It's produced by Kevin Feige. We got music by Tyler Bates, who did Guardians 1. So see our Guardians 1 pod if you want to have a deeper dive on Tyler Bates. Cinematography, Henry Braum, who did Legend of Tarzan, The Golden Compass, and Flyboys.
What's Flyboys?
That is a James Franco movie, I think about World War I pilots, maybe World War II. Production company, Marvel Studios, distributed Walt Disney.
I think I'm out on James Franco.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well,
he
done
did a
some
bad
weird
thing.
things.
Didn't he? Well, one of it is great. He's a great actor. I'm not
Yeah.
going to take away his ability,
yeah.
his acting ability. I also think I'm not going to get into that because I don't know that much about it. But seeing that trailer of that show that he's in about the porn industry, and just like, and I know he's acting. I know. But it's just like, oh, that's scummy.
Oh, okay.
Like that's got a weird taste in my
haven't
mouth
seen
from
it, so
that.
I don't know.
And then just hearing a lot of his personal life stuff in the last year or two,
Yeah,
it's just
he's
like,
got
oh, that's
some-
scummier. That's not great. And
He's
think I'm out.
he's someone that I would not feel comfortable on this podcast that hopefully by now millions of people listen to. I would not feel comfortable endorsing James Franco
no,
because of things he's done in his personal life. I haven't looked into a lot of it, and part of that is my bad on my part. Like I just don't really want to because I like some of his movies, but he also is in some movies that kind of suck. So
yeah, True Story.
the
Literally,
movie
the movie True Story.
Haven't seen it.
Didn't really like it that
You
much.
told me it wasn't good, so I didn't see it.
Yeah. You know who I'm pro though?
Who?
Dave Franco, his brother.
Yeah. Who's married to Allison Brie.
Yeah.
And we love
What a
Allison
score,
Brie.
man.
This is a
Good for
pro
you.
Allison Brie podcast.
Yes.
I wonder when she's gonna get into the Marvel universe.
It's just a matter of time. I think she's too busy wrestling or something.
Because of the show Glow on Netflix. We should make a couple of predictions. We should choose like 3 actors and guess what year they are going to be in a Marvel
That is so
movie.
hard.
Because
That's so specific.
Brie Larson, I'm going to say 2022, and we'll be able to reference back to this. That's the best part because it'll be on this podcast, which you can rate, you can review, you can subscribe to, show and tell your friends. We like to discuss movies with
Okay,
you.
let's sweet pass it.
Oh, okay. So I think Brie Larson will be in a Marvel movie by 2022. Do you have any thoughts or guesses?
No.
Okay.
I just can't think of James Franco will be I'm just kidding.
Well, Dave Franco, I don't know. I don't think
been
he's going to be in
hasn't
one.
he been in a animated movie recently?
He was in the Lego Ninjago movie.
That's what it is.
Oh yeah, he's 2023. So it'll be Bree in 2022, and it'll be
Micah,
Dave in 2023.
do you know anything about the Hollywood industry? It's always the man first. It's gonna be Dave and then Allison.
No, she's got it.
I'm just kidding.
She'll be in.
Well, not really.
Oh,
It's
here's
not
another
true.
one. Here's another one. What movie are they going to be in? She's going to be in Captain Marvel 2. That'll be where she makes her first appearance.
Can't imagine her and Brie Larson in a movie together.
Two Breeze. Too much cheese, baby. But actually, I don't think that movie comes out in 2022. Whenever she's going to be in Captain Marvel 2.
Okay.
That's my final
You put up
answer.
3 fingers for that.
Captain Marvel 3.
Now 4.
Okay. That was so stupid. Is anyone still listening? This came out May 5th, 2017. Box office, it makes $389,813,101. And worldwide, it makes $863,756,051. Now, one thing I would like to mention, that is such a big number. That's so great. What's kind of nuts, though, is I looked up, or I was editing our Shrek 2 episode, and that movie made over $900 million. That
And what
movie
did
almost
this-
made
Wait,
$1 billion.
so
And
what?
so this movie made in the 800,000s,
And
high
which-
800,000s.
It was Shrek 2, you said?
Yeah, Shrek 2
Oh,
made
wow.
over 900.
So Shrek 2 is a better sequel on paper.
I guess you could say so.
Interesting.
Um,
It is a pretty good sequel.
It is. I listened to our episode. I'm trying to look up the box office here because I forgot to. Not the box office, but the production budget. Do you have anything you can throw along while I'm trying to pull this up?
This movie is really colorful. Both.
Wait. Have you looked any actors up or anything? Did you not?
There's like 2
Jordan.
people to look up. Micah, can I just have a moment to myself in the day?
No.
Is that so much to ask?
No, you cannot.
No, I didn't look anything up. It's Kurt Russell. Everyone knows who Kurt Russell is.
Yeah,
He's in The
that's-
Thing.
That's true. He is in The Thing.
I was going to look it up, though, as we were talking.
Oh, I see. So, okay, budget.
Oh, yeah, Kurt Russell's like John Carpenter's man.
Oh, yeah.
Who did John Carpenter did The Thing, listener.
Yes.
Also, he's in The Hateful Eight, and he does wonderfully. And then, I mean, it's just like, take your pick. He apparently is in a Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah, the Fate of the Furious.
And Furious 7.
Oh, okay. I remember I think he was filming at the same time. Budget of this movie, $200 million. I got it now.
Okay.
Oh,
Dang, that's a lot of money it made.
yeah. So
He's also in Death Proof, which is Quentin Tarantino's B movie. You would that's his B movie.
he's been in 3 Tarantinos now.
So it's Death Proof, Hateful Eight, and then
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
oh right, he's so good. He's in Vanilla Sky, Forrest Gump. So there you have it. That's Kurt Russell.
He's in Forrest Gump?
Yeah, he is. Elvis Presley.
Oh, and he plays in a movie as Elvis Presley, directed by John Carpenter. So that's kind of interesting.
He does?
Yep.
What movie?
It's called Elvis, I think. I'm not kidding.
Oh.
Don't give me that look.
Yeah, I believe you. And then I was gonna look up Pom Clementieff, who plays Mantis.
She's pretty outstanding in this movie.
I was gonna say that she's pretty.
She is pretty too.
I'm looking at her IMDb right now.
But I mean, she's pretty
looks very
outstanding.
different. She's incredible. She's in the remake of Old Boy.
Okay.
She's in an episode of Black Mirror.
Okay.
Interesting. But before this movie, she's in Ingrid Goes West, which is that Aubrey Plaza movie.
Yeah.
I never saw that. And then she's in a movie called Porn in the Hood.
Ooh. I don't want to see that.
No. Seems like she's in a ton of indie movies. And she is from... She's French.
She's French.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So a lot of French and indie movies.
Cool.
And then... I mean, it's like Sylvester Stallone's in it, but it's pretty much a cameo. He's
Yeah,
Rocky.
we don't have
okay?
to-
He's Rocky.
And this would be after Creed came out, I believe. So he's kind of back into the zeitgeist of like maybe our generation would recognize him a little more. I don't know. Well, of course, if you're watching Creed, you've seen Rocky, so everybody knows who Sylvester Stallone is. What are you laughing
Okay,
about?
what I really wanted to do, and part of it was time, part of it was just like, can I just have a moment of my day where I'm not looking up something?
I already said no.
But what I really wanted to do was look up just the Ravagers and just do their acting credits because they steal the show.
They do very well.
Taserface is a main character in the show This Is Us.
Really?
Is that crazy or what? Also, he's a big guy.
Whoa. Well, is he wearing something extra there to make him look that large?
Oh.
I hate to say that, but...
Well, if I had done my research, probably could have answered that.
It looked a little disproportional is all.
But I don't know if we talked about Sean Gunn in the last one, James Gunn's brother.
Okay. Yeah, because he did... I don't know that we talked about his acting credits, but he's the stand-in for Rocket. So we talked about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to look up this guy, but I'll just look him up later because I'm sure he's not in anything. And then I was also should have looked up the Gold Queen.
Oh, yeah.
Whose name is Elizabeth Debicki.
Yeah.
She's in Widows.
Which came out after this.
I know.
Is she in anything before?
Yeah, she's in The Great Gatsby, which I actually do remember. She plays Jordan Baker.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that character from the book, but
no, I don't.
She's like one of the main characters. Well, like side.
Oh,
supporting
I do
character.
actually kind of remember her.
She's also in Peter Rabbit. And then she's in Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets.
Makes sense.
And
so many planets in that city.
She's in the movie Everest, Man from U.N.C.L.E., Macbeth.
Oh, dang. She's had a nice run.
Oh, The Great Gatsby is only her second acting credit, though. That's crazy. Her first movie was A Few Best Men, which is looks to be a Rebel Wilson movie.
A Few Best Men. Okay.
So, and she is Polish.
She's Polish?
No, she was born in Paris to a Polish father and an Australian mother of Irish descent. Is that confusing or what?
Or what? No, it is confusing.
So, that's my job.
So James Gunn explained his relationship to Marvel, which, so if you remember, we had Ant-Man, trouble with directors, Edgar Wright. We had Age of Ultron, Joss Whedon leaves Marvel. So he explains his relationship with the company, and this was at the time of Guardians 2, and he said, quote, "They let me go and do my thing, and I truly listen to their notes and ideas. I've never been told to put in any character or plot element at all. When they trust you, they give you a wide berth. We just fit." So he had a good working experience with them.
Yeah.
And then...
until they screwed him.
Which I think I'll just save for the Guardians 3 episode when that happens. Originally, Adam Warlock was a major player in story, but it wound up cluttering up story. So Gunn said that he liked what he did, but it was just too many characters, and he didn't want to lose Mantis as an additional character.
Oh, interesting. I actually feel like this movie has so much going on, so I can't imagine what more they could have going on.
That's why he cut it. So, but Adam Warlock he's a supervillain, and he's the person that's created at the end credit sequence when she says, "I created Adam."
Oh, okay.
And here's the funny thing is, so he wanted to put that scene in the movie, that credit scene, and Marvel was like, I don't think so. And he had to clarify on social media that Adam would not be in Avengers because Marvel was concerned that people would be expecting him in the movie. Because apparently he, let's see, in the comic books, Warlock is one of Thanos' adversaries.
Oh.
What makes this credit scene such an OMG moment for comic book fans is that Warlock plays a big role in the battle against Thanos in the comic book event, the Infinity Gauntlet.
Against him?
Yeah.
Oh.
In that series, Thanos assembles all the Infinity Gems and threatens to destroy the universe, and the Infinity Gauntlet is essentially comic book source material for Avengers Infinity War and Endgame.
So was it mostly just a nod to fans?
Well, I think he's setting up what he would like to do in a future movie.
Okay, but he just had to specify that it was not.
He had to just had to tell people on social media, like, he's not going to be in the Avengers movies because people were expecting that. And then so Peter Quill's father and Yondu's backstory were, he had a lot of that written before they filmed Guardians 1. So he had like not necessarily like the lines or anything, but he had that idea of like Ego's his father, and Yondu kept him for these purposes to keep him away from the slave trading thing, all
cool.
of that stuff. So, which makes sense because then remember how we mentioned in Guardians 1, there's a lot of like Easter eggs that don't pay off yet, but they also aren't like too distracting.
Yeah.
And then this is so funny to me. So he wanted to use an alien race called Sneepers, which is in like some comic books, but Marvel advised against it because it was too close to the word Snipur, which is Icelandic for clitoris.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. So they didn't make the cut.
Whoa, that's crazy.
And then with the upgrade in technology, special effects, they rebuilt Rocket from the ground up.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah. And there a few of these things are actually just pulled right from Wikipedia. The prop department also made edible props for certain scenes. A prop of stink bug inspired insects was made from chocolate and injected with black honey so it could be eaten on screen, and when he bit down, the honey poured out of his mouth.
Who?
I'm not sure. I feel like Groot did that. Like ate that bug at the beginning. I can't think of another bug that was eaten. But
I don't think he ate it.
Anyway, it's just interesting practical stuff that they were doing on set. Similarly, a yarrow root, which is what Nebula bites into, was designed based on enlarged images of pollen and then created.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then created with non-dairy white chocolate.
Cool.
So she's just biting into chocolate when she does that. And then I know we're not there yet, but the Sylvester Stallone team that organizes itself at the end of the movie, those are just a bunch of important Guardian characters throughout the years of the comic book.
That one's just a nod.
I mean, I suppose they could do something with it, but it's I get that's all I could find out.
Okay.
So
I imagine to me that one's just like a fun Easter egg for fans.
Yeah. And Miley Cyrus voices that little robot thing, which is weird. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take a sip of kombucha.
You do it. That's a big sip.
I'm going to cut all of that out right there.
Okay.
Okay, you want to jump into the plot now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so movie starts. It says Earth 30... I don't remember what year it was, but it says the year.
It says
Missouri. Big font. And you hear... And
you see two young people, but not just young people, young Kurt Russell, and Peter Quill's mom in the car, couldn't be happier, just singing to the song, driving down the highway in Missouri, and
they de-aged him.
And he looks really good.
It looks really good.
Because you brought up an interesting thing about the whole de-aging thing. Because they're not just de-aging, like we all know what Kurt Russell looks like as a young person.
Yeah.
It's not just like Kurt Russell got famous in his 50s and now they're de-aging him. And it's like that wouldn't really be a visual noticeable feat to you and me or to the audience, but since we know what young Kurt Russell looks like and they did that, it's like, dang, that's young Kurt Russell.
It's the same with Sam Jackson and Captain Marvel. Like they have to go, what did he look like in the 90s? And I don't know if there's
more pressure on it.
Yes, I think there's more pressure. I don't know, maybe as a VFX artist it's actually easier because you know like how to make the person look. I would imagine it would make it tougher though, because like if they just wanted to de-age our dads or something like that in a movie, as long as it didn't look weird, who cares? Because they don't have to make it look a certain way.
I said this when we were watching it that I think a lot of it's makeup too.
Yeah, there's definitely some makeup going on. They probably get it as good and like as his face lifted and young looking as possible, and then
I wonder if the touch-ups aren't that crazy, because I bet there's a lot of makeup.
Well, with both of those men, maybe, because they're both aging very well.
Yeah, they are.
Although Sam Jackson, I mean, it's a pretty noticeable difference.
Did those VFX guys do a episode on it?
I think they did one on on Sam Jackson. I don't remember for sure though.
Yeah.
So it starts there. They pull into a Dairy Queen, which there's some weird product placement with Dairy Queen. That's like, come on.
Yeah.
And then they go into like the wilderness, and you see this weird little like root thing that looks totally real. Like I think they had to have made that thing, and then just like put a little like CGI lights on it or something. But it's kind of cool because you can actually like touch it. Like I feel like you could grab it or put it in your house or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she mentions that he's a man from the stars and stuff like that.
And I mean, he takes her because he wants to show her this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't really say what it is.
Well, he says like, it took to the soil and one day it'll.
Yeah. And she's like, I don't know what you're saying, but I
whatever.
like the way you say it.
Yeah.
Is pretty much what she says. And then they kiss, and then it goes to present day.
Mm-hmm. It says 34 years later.
Yes.
And then we're getting to the best scene in any Marvel movie of the cinematic universe. It's the best. It is the absolute best. But before we get right to that exact scene, we see our Guardians. They're on a space station, and there's some fun banter.
They're on a planet.
Or yes,
what's the planet called?
I don't remember.
It's Sovereign.
Sovereign. Yes.
Yeah.
And you find out that there's this alien that's trying to eat these batteries.
Yeah, and they've been hired to kill the alien and protect the batteries.
Yeah, so they're doing their thing, and all the while Rocket's working on he's working on putting together a speaker,
and they're
so
just
that they can
all
listen
of them
to
are
music.
Fighting about everything. And
yeah, it's a perfect intro back into these characters.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's just a dysfunctional family, and it all comes round to Rocket like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I'm trying to get this to work so we can listen to music while we work. That's not important right now.
Yeah.
And then he's like blaming Quill. It's like, well, Peter wants the music. It's so important to him. And so it's just such great chemistry with all of them.
Yeah. And
then, we're reminded immediately.
Yes. And then the dimensional sea monkey comes out. It's shooting like rainbows out of its mouth.
Oh, the sea monkey?
Well, they call it a sea monkey.
Oh.
And when I paused the thing, the scene was called Sea Monkeys and Guardians or something like that.
Okay.
But Rocket just calls him that.
Okay.
But they're flying around, they start fighting, and it goes to Groot, and he has some trouble.
But it's not just that. It's like, it's a close-up on Groot, but like in the background, Groot's in the foreground. In the background, you see the Guardians fighting this alien, and it's not just Groot, it's baby Groot, because remember from the first movie he sacrificed himself to save everyone, so now he is like born again, like he is a child.
Well, it was that twig that he
was a
kept.
twig. Now he's basically like a toddler-esque, and so he can't fight, so he put together the music thing.
And he has trouble, and then he starts dancing. It freeze frame says Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And then the rest of the scene is one long tracking shot. That's actually 11 shots I saw.
Oh, cool.
It's where they just follow Groot like dancing, and
it's basically the title sequence.
Yeah,
or the credit sequence.
Yeah, and the credits.
Which is like
are
the
rolling.
first movie. You're like, that's the best credit sequence I've ever seen, and then you see this movie, and you're like, this is the best opening credit sequence I've ever seen.
It's honestly the hardest I've ever laughed in the theaters.
Micah turned to me in theaters when it ended and said, if the movie ended right there, I'd leave, pay for a ticket, and come right back.
Oh yeah, it was so satisfying. And actually, last night we hadn't seen it in so long that I actually started laughing really hard again.
Yeah.
And in the background, like the Guardians are all getting beaten up and stuff like that. And I'm just gonna say it's the best. It's the best scene in any of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
And I just went and saw Far From Home again today, and it's got the great scene where Jake Gyllenhaal is explaining what went down.
Yeah. No,
Which
this
that
one's
scene
better.
is so cool. Jeremy turned to me and he was like, "Whoa, that is crazy."
Oh, cool.
So, yeah. So that all happens. Then they go and they meet with the
they
high
defeat
priestess.
the sea monkey.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to
Goes
do
without
every
saying.
beat.
This is going to be a hard movie to not try to explain the visuals because the movie is so visual.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
Yeah. Well, we can do our best.
Yeah.
But speaking of the visuals, I mean, what's kind of cool about the movie is it's very CGI based,
Yeah.
super CGI based. But then they do things like the Sovereign, those gold people, like that's all practical.
The makeup's insane. The set
and
is
they look
insane.
really, really cool.
Yeah.
And then, not to mention like Drax or Gamora or
Rocket.
Yeah,
well,
he's
we're talking
CG,
about practical. Wait, what? Yeah, and I think that noticing in this movie, the CGI elements, some of them are cartoonish. So it's like, yeah, it's CGI. We're gonna make it crazy too.
Yeah,
We're not gonna try to make it look as real as
I think
possible.
they're a little more self-aware, I think.
Yeah, and
of it.
I appreciate, especially with this movie, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Well, and I think we're getting to that point in the universe where people are kind of like, I mean, if you're on board by now, you're on board. So we don't have to handhold you. We don't have to pretend. Like I appreciate that James Gunn and most of the movies, they don't all try and pretend that they're the Dark Knight. Mm-hmm. They do their own thing.
Yeah.
And this movie especially is just like it goes balls to the walls the whole time, and it doesn't apologize for that ever. And what I likened it to last night was I said it's like this movie is slam dunking every scene, but instead of a movie like Suicide Squad where it's like, check it out, we're slam dunking, and you're like, shut up.
Yeah.
Like someone break this person's ankle because I don't want them to slam dunk again. This sucks.
Whoa.
This one's like every scene they slam dunk and you're like, woo! So,
Pass him a ball.
get him another ball. See if he can do it. Oh, he did it again. So they go to the Sovereign and, fun banter stuff.
Banter.
Banter.
As they're leaving, you find out that Rocket has stolen some of the batteries.
Yeah.
And only him and Drax know for a short period of time.
Yeah.
So
get in the ship, and then they're attacked by the Sovereign.
where were they? What was their next place of going to? There was a reason. Like they're like, oh, okay, we get this money, we're gonna go do this. Oh, no. They didn't just get paid, they got Nebula. That's what it was.
That's right.
They gave them Nebula, and I think they're gonna take her to Xandar.
They were. Yep.
So Nebula from the last movie, it's Gamora's sister.
Yeah.
She is like a bad guy, and I'm putting that in air quotes at the moment. She's like a complicated bad guy at the moment.
Yeah.
It's almost as if it's like she's just on the wrong team.
Well, and I think they mentioned that she was trying to steal the batteries or something like that. Like she's trying to do something, and we don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
So then they go, the Sovereign team, the Sovereign people find out that they stole the batteries. They attack them in these cool designed arcade, like all of the ships that attack Guardians are controlled by remote in arcade, basically, by the Sovereign people.
I mean, the
which
sound
is cool
effects
design.
are arcades.
It's funny, and it's just kind of like, oh, I haven't really seen this before.
Yeah.
Like, this is cool.
Well, it's cool too because the people are described as being very vain and very like shallow. So it's like, well, of course, they're not going to put their actual beings at risk
yeah.
to be killed. So it's like it even makes sense with who they are as people.
Yeah.
It's great. So they're trying to outrun them, and they're trying to go to the closest planet that they can, and they have to go through a quantum asteroid field.
Yeah.
So it gets even harder.
And
it's
that's
like
cool because these asteroids, these red and black asteroids, are just kind of popping up, and then they shoot in odd directions and stop, and then shoot in other odd directions.
yeah.
And you're kind of like, oh, a new take on asteroids.
Yeah. So not only are they trying to get away from these people, they're trying to not get blown, like have an asteroid just appear in front of them and crash their ship.
Yeah. And so they're going through that, and they're like, why are they chasing us? And they find out that Rocket stole the batteries. And this is when like one of the main conflicts of the movie begins, where it's Rocket's just does things. He just does bad. And
Well, yeah, it's like, why would you do that? Because it's funny. No, but why did you do that?
And so he put everyone at risk, and him and Peter have those dueling egos, and they're both trying to like fly the ship and stuff. And so you're seeing how they like their egos getting in the way.
Both of them equally too.
Yeah.
It's like not one is more at fault than the other in that.
Yeah. And then a little tiny man on a ship flies by and kills all the sovereign ships. And then they land in their jump point.
But it's a little man on top of a ship that's shaped like an egg.
Yeah.
And it's even white like an egg. And it's just him, and it's like it's as if the egg is a whale and he has reins, like horse reins on it, and is just standing on top and waving. And it's that great cameras, because it's not real, like CGI, is what I mean. But the camera like kind of does a steady cam. And zooms in. And it's so funny because Rocket's just like, there's a little guy out there. And he kind of says it quietly. Oh, so funny.
Yeah.
So they make it to the planet, but they crash land there, destroy the ship.
Yeah.
And what's great about that is in a lot of movies, they'd crash land on this planet, their ship would be totally destroyed, and they're like, oh, I guess we're stuck on this planet for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Which sometimes that's great. That's like nothing against that. But like within 30 seconds, the guy on the egg ship shows up.
And we find out it's Peter's father.
Yeah. This is so quick. It's crazy that this is like so much happens in the first act.
I know. Well, what I was noticing last night is like we paused the movie at like 1:10, and then I had to go to the bathroom, and then there was still an hour left, and we were in like I'm pretty sure the rest of the movie was just kind of the last sequence, because there's so much that happens. And we should mention that the action is actually pretty fun to watch in this movie.
Yes.
Because it doesn't really get boring, and I think there's a couple of reasons why. One is that you have character developing moments in the action.
Yeah.
So everything with like Peter fighting his dad, jumping way ahead, we'll jump back, but everything with Peter fighting his dad, character development. Even Mantis and Drax friendship.
Yondu,
all those people, like they're all getting their due, and then they're Yondu. And then you have cool special effects that are happening. And then I think the third thing that Guardians nails, and it couples with humor. So when something funny is happening in these action sequences, it kind of brings you in even further. But they do this brilliant thing where like right about at the moment where you'd go, I'm kind of tired of looking at this, they pull away and they go to like a deeply funny, deeply character-driven moment. So, for example, in that last sequence, when Rocket's trying to set the bomb with Groot, it's like a huge battle's happening outside, and they take like a minute and a half out of the movie for him to sit there and try to explain to baby Groot what to do.
And waiting for tape.
And it's kind of like they're kind of bored, like sitting there. And that kind of, I think that's why the action functions so well in these movies, and that the movies don't get boring, because it's similar to Guardians 1. They're both in that way that the action is broken up by humor and characters and stuff, so you're not just like bored, because this movie is mostly action in a lot of ways.
It really is.
It kind of doesn't really stop.
Yeah. So to get back to like where we're at is
okay, fine.
Peter's dad shows up, tells Peter, I'm your dad. And then they take a moment to kind of like talk about it. Like, because it's just like, oh, the first guy who's going to tell me he's my dad, I'm going to believe him. It's like, no, they kind of talk about it. Talks about his mom just briefly, and they're still on the planet that they crash landed on. And then you see this woman with him named Mantis, and she doesn't talk very much right at the beginning, which I think is cool, because she seems very submissive, but partly because she has never had interaction with anyone else besides a god. So it's like that's the only thing she really knows. It's crazy. I think it's cool that she just doesn't even fully understand what she can do.
Yeah.
And it's cool because it's not just like she has a superpower. She's an alien.
Yeah.
So it's like you would think there are potentially millions of other things that can do the same thing that she can.
Right.
But she's never met them.
Yeah.
So she's never figured it out.
Yeah.
Like totally. So I like immediately she kind of bonds with Drax, sort of, where she's like asking if she can pet his dog, which is Rocket. And he plays a practical joke. And then Drax does a hilarious thing where he's like, that was a practical joke. I just thought of that.
I just made that
up. And it's great too, because in the first movie, when Drax was introduced and Peter was sarcastic about something and he didn't get it. Yeah. And he's like, oh, and Rocket says something like, they're highly literal people. anything's going to go right over their head. And Drax is like, nothing goes right over my head. I would catch it.
Yeah.
This movie, he's definitely developed a sense of humor.
Well, you know what? It's kind of like he's on this mission to like understand what a metaphor is. Almost, it's almost like that's what his character goal is. Because throughout this, and in the Avengers too, it's like he's trying to. I don't know. He's always trying to like figure it out. Like figure out that other level of language.
And what's crazy too is that in the first movie he had such a strong motivation. Because Ronan had killed, Thanos, but like Ronan had killed his family. Mm-hmm. And then that movie ends, Ronan's dead. And of course he wants to get Thanos. Like that's still his motivation, but it's like he found some resolve in his loss and his tragedy. So this movie, you could think if it was not done well, you could probably think like, well, why is Drax in it? Mm-hmm. But they made him so essential to the humor of the entire movie.
Yeah.
That he had to be in it.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because he's useful in other ways, but I would say he's most useful in character development.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy too because he is probably laughing the most out of everyone. He seems the most happy.
Yeah.
And like the most like carefree. And I think it's because he did what he needed to do in the last movie. And he like helped Mantis now.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't know that he does. It's just so interesting what they did with him.
Yeah.
Because they could have gotten really boring.
Or they could have just been like, I know Ronan killed my family, but I really want Thanos, and made him kind of the same character he was in the last movie.
Yeah, and he totally was not.
Yeah.
It's great.
And he still has that moment in Infinity War where he like tries to kill Thanos, you know, so he still gets his due.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all that's happening. Peter goes with his alleged dad.
Gamora, Drax.
Yes.
And then meanwhile, because I don't exactly remember where they...
and they have him and Peter and Rocket have that moment where they're like, you suck. And like, are you just trying to make everybody hate you? And kind of vice versa. But mostly Peter's saying to Rocket, like, what is your goal here? What are you trying to do? Like, just make us all hate you? Well, I don't get it. And then he goes away.
Basically, he's like, and it's working. Everyone's going to hate you.
Yeah.
And then I think it might be right after this when we are reintroduced to Yondu.
Yes.
And the Ravagers.
Oh, yeah.
It's basically like an underground, like, brothel planet.
Yeah.
Basically. And it's so... I'm sorry, I'm trying to collect my thoughts on it. So basically, I wouldn't say Yondu looks very happy.
No, he looks very depressed.
He looks very depressed, pretty miserable. And he sees Sylvester Stallone, who is another Ravager, and goes up to him, and he's just like, oh my gosh, it's you, like your brother, basically.
Yeah.
Like, how are you? So great to see you, kind of thing. And immediately Sylvester Stallone like rejects him and is like, I would never talk to someone who traded kids.
Yeah.
So basically he tells him that he's excommunicated. And
he said that they'll never have the fireworks at his funeral or the horns of the Ravagers play.
Mm-hmm. Because he mentioned that he had traded kids at one point, and then Yondu pleads.
He's like, I wear these colors, like, you know.
And he didn't. He's like, I didn't know. And then Sylvester says a good thing where it's like, yeah, you didn't know because you didn't want to.
Yeah.
You're still responsible.
And then he leaves, and then the Sovereign girl comes, and she goes. She
hires them to get the Guardians.
Yeah, she hires Yondu to get the Guardians,
which is I think it's because the last movie ended with Peter screwing Yondu over by not giving him the Infinity Stone. And you remember Yondu's kind of like smiling like, I knew he wouldn't give it to me. Yeah. But it is kind of like, he still owes me.
Yeah.
So he's like out for blood in a way.
But I don't agree with that, because especially in the scene after they kind of get Rocket captured and stuff, you know, like he says he even says like,
or they're trying to negotiate.
Well, they're trying to negotiate, and Yondu walks out.
Yeah.
So before this, the Ravagers come, they attack Rocket on his ship, and Rocket and Groot and Nebula are there. Yeah. And Rocket fights them all off to Southern Knights. It's hilarious. Mm-hmm. So then they're surrounded. They finally got Rocket captured. Yondu comes out, and he basically says, well, guys, why would we get the Guardians of the Galaxy and have Xandar on our backs? Because they're gods, or they're like
Heroes.
good heroes at Xandar, when we could just take these batteries and go sell them.
Right. And then the problem that the Ravagers have with Yondu is like it's basically he's soft and he never does the thing that he needs to do
With Peter.
Not I would say kind of in everything though.
Okay.
Because I think
I
they're
don't
fed
think there's
up.
anything to back that up.
Okay. Well,
Go ahead.
I would just
I'm kidding.
assume like the catalyst is Peter,
Yeah.
but it's like you're soft, period.
Yeah.
Especially with Peter.
So then there's a mutiny.
Yeah.
And he's thrown in prison, so is Nebula, so is
But
actually Nebula
his
isn't
Mohawk
thrown
thing gets blown off his
by
head.
Nebula.
By Nebula.
And she actually is not put in prison because she kind of runs the show, and she's like, boys, I got some ideas.
Yeah. She's like, give me 10% of the cut and I'll help you.
Yeah. And then meanwhile, we're back on Ego's planet. So Ego, who's Kurt Russell, he brings them all in, and he explains Peter's heritage and explains like you're half god.
The planet that you're on is me.
Yeah, I am Ego, the living planet.
And his goal, like he created a purpose for himself by figuring out life, like literally creating life.
Yeah.
So that he can create more life, but to him, life is him. So what he wants is to create more of himself. Mm-hmm. Originally, it seems like he's just trying to create life, right?
Yeah.
And Gamora the whole time's kind of like, this just doesn't really feel right.
Uh-huh.
And then Drax and Mantis are still like bonding, becoming friends. He tells her she's ugly, all that fun stuff. And she's trying to tell him something's wrong. But there's not really a moment.
She can't get herself to do it.
Yeah. And then as like those things are happening, Peter is still talking to his dad and is like, why would you leave my mom? Why did you not come back for her? And his excuse is like, I have to come back to this planet every so often or else I'll die, basically, because he just needs to make sure that the light doesn't go out.
Yeah.
And he said that if I went back to Earth one more time, I would never leave because he loved his mom that much.
Yeah.
Which
allegedly,
which is kind of that funny thing where you're like, why didn't you just take her with you?
Yeah.
One of those things.
Well, and he's just making it up.
Oh, yeah, he's making it up. So he's trying to get Peter to understand, like, you are God, God. And which means you can do things like I can.
Yeah.
And then he creates a little ball of light out of thin air.
Yeah.
And they play catch. And Peter plays catch with his dad. Uh-huh. And it's in slow motion.
It's a little heavy-handed, but I think they know that, and it's pretty funny.
So hilarious. I love it.
And then one thing I wanted to mention. So I think maybe this is a podcast about franchise. This is about sequels. I think I have like a little hack if you're ever going to write a sequel to a movie.
Oh, okay.
And I think it is if it's a sequel that has an ensemble. Like your movie's an ensemble, so Guardians, and I'm going to use as another example Stranger Things, even though that is not a movie.
Right.
So you have these first two, or this first experience with that thing, and it's pretty awesome, and you're like, this is awesome, I love all these characters. And then I'm going to skip season 2 of Stranger Things, even though it's pretty good, but it misses the mark a little bit.
Banger.
Season 3 was great.
Doesn't have a bad episode.
And what is
season 2?
It has one bad episode.
Yeah.
But what does Guardians 2 and Stranger Things 3 have in common? They split up the team.
Yes.
And by doing that, you get to...
Lord of the Rings does it too, and I know that's part of the books.
That's true.
But Lord of the Rings does it too.
Lord of the Rings does it as well. You are right.
You could also argue Star Wars does it too.
Oh, that was another one that I had noticed because... they split up those for Chewbacca, Luke, Han, and Leia. And C-3PO and R2-D2. They split them all up, and even The Last Jedi splits them up. And I think by splitting characters up, what you open up is just by way of splitting them up naturally, you have just a whole different set of options for like characters interacting with each other.
Wow. You cracked the freaking code. Look at you, man.
I know. I think it's pretty good. Because it seems like a lot of really good sequels. That's what they do. They break up the team,
I'm just trying to think of more.
literally or like or they don't necessarily like break them up like we're no longer this team, but splitting them up. So now you get to see Rocket and Yondu hang out. Now you get to see like Drax and Gamora and Peter together, and now the team split up. It helps that there's new characters as well,
but not that many in this movie.
Yeah,
I mean, like
Mantis and Ego.
You have some more
basically.
Ravagers, sure, but they're more comedic relief, and then the Sovereign Queen, who is just a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I wouldn't. She's not a MacGuffin, I don't think, because
how is she not?
Well, she plays a pretty central plot to the story. Like you can't.
In what way?
Well, I mean, she like drives the Sovereign to go after them the whole time.
Yeah, but she's continuously hiring people.
Yeah.
To like she hired Yondu. That's Yondu's reason for going to the Guardians. That's a MacGuffin.
I don't think so.
Oh.
Just because like a MacGuffin can be replaced with anything. It's just supposed to be like
It's just moving the story forward.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It's just like because if you went to like Pulp Fiction, like the MacGuffin, the briefcase, you can replace that with like anything. It's just whatever's in the briefcase. It doesn't matter. But you can't like take out the Sovereign and change it to something else.
Why couldn't you?
Well, I mean, you could change anything in a story.
No, but I mean specifically the Sovereign. How could you not change her? You could.
Well, because she has like a personal stake in it because they insulted her, and then she's getting those batteries, and then the batteries are also like how they destroy Ego.
Just to me, you're describing a MacGuffin.
Oh, I just disagree. I don't think it's a MacGuffin. But anyway, you split up the team, like in Stranger Things, like having Dustin and what's his name together. That was like Steve. That was like a relationship that you just learn a lot about them. It's interesting.
Split up together in the second season too.
Oh. Crap.
But they just played on it more. Apparently there was more to explore.
Yeah.
And because of the second season, they became like best friends. So in the third season, you introduced the other girl. Don't remember her name. Robin. And then the other girl. So they did introduce more to their dynamic too.
Yeah.
But
anyway, so that's my my hint on sequels.
Cool.
So now we're back at Guardians. There's been a mutiny on Yondu's ship, and he's in prison with Rocket and Groot. And Groot is going to help them break out.
Groot is the new mascot for the Ravengers.
Yes, but he doesn't understand things very well. So they try to explain to him, like, hey, Groot, I need you to get my...
Prototype Finn.
And he brings back underwear. And they're like, that's not it. He brings back a rat alien. They're like, that's not it. He brings back an eye. No. Desk. And then the thumb part of your toe. Like your
big toe?
Your big toe. And then finally, Sean Gunn, who originally had kind of suggested the mutiny, not by accident.
Like more, yeah. And it was more in a like, I mean, I'm sure he meant it. Like, something needs to change.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't mean this.
Yeah.
And then all of his friends were dying. And he's like, well, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to play along with this until I can see my way out.
And what's funny about this that we mentioned last night is that had he not made that change, Groot probably never would have found the prototype Finn.
Which means they probably would have died. Yeah.
And meanwhile, Nebula has agreed to do something and she leaves.
Well, she supported the mutiny. She made sure it happened.
Yeah.
So they gave her a ship and 10% of the money.
Yeah.
And then she left.
And then, so actually before this though, in the prison, Yondu and Rocket are starting to they're not becoming buddies, but they're starting to understand each other a little bit. We'll get more into that later in the movie.
And it's just so funny because there was the part when they started talking and then Rocket kind of makes Yondu laugh a little bit. And then Rocket's like, oh, there's that disgusting, the worst set of teeth I've ever seen. Yeah. And then Yondu says, are you like a professional a-hole or what?
Yeah. And then we have maybe the most violent scene in any Marvel movie.
Yeah.
because they break out. He uses his prototype Thin. It's a song.
Fin.
Fin?
You called it Thin.
I thought it was Thin.
I thought it was a fin.
That makes more sense. I bet
Yeah.
it's a fin.
So he whistles, which has this little arrow
Yeah.
that goes around.
And it kills
Impaling
everyone
people.
in the ship, and Rocket is like shooting guns
And
at
what's
everyone.
the song that's playing?
I don't remember what it
I
is.
think I know what it is. I just have to see the title. But yeah,
It-
they're laughing.
They're
as they're killing
it's
people?
maniacal. I mean, it is so violent and graphic. There's just a few things in this movie, like in the mutiny when they're killing people and the guy freezes in space. This scene, and then the prostitute robots on that first planet. I'm like, this
Gosh,
is
yeah.
kind of like the kids that are seeing this are probably like, Dad, what is this? Or Mom, what is this?
Yeah.
Anyway, so they do that. Then Nebula has expressed how her and Thanos. Oh yeah,
Is this the song?
it is. It is. Just tell us the name and shut it off so we don't get copyrighted claimed.
Yeah, this is it. Come a little bit closer by Jay and the Americans. And you can play 2 seconds of a song, Micah.
No, I know, but no more.
Okay.
So then Nebula has expressed that Thanos would pin her and Gamora against each other and fight, and Gamora would always win, and then he would like basically tear apart Nebula and turn her more and more into a robot every
To try
time
to
she
make her
lost.
Gamora's equal.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy, which is why I remember before we saw Infinity War, I was just like, they better give Nebula her due, because like she has so much at stake with Thanos, and they totally did. And so she goes and she finds him on Ego's planet. She attacks Gamora. Gamora
Ruthlessly.
still. Oh yeah, it's a great scene. Gamora finally she beats her again. She bests her. And she's like, why are you trying to do this? And she goes, I just wanted a sister. You always had to win, and I just wanted a sister. And Jordan's already crying.
It's just great because she says it. She doesn't. It's like she didn't know she was going to say it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it was just heartfelt.
And that's the moment where, as first-time viewer, I'm like, oh, Nebula's super cool, and I hope she doesn't die, and I hope she becomes a major player in this world.
Yeah.
And then she does.
Yeah.
Not she dies. She does become a major player, and she dies, but she's still alive because she kills herself in Endgame, which is just cool. I love that kind of time travel stuff. And then we have the great scene where Gamora and Peter are dancing, and they talk about the unspoken thing that if they talked about it, the ratings of the TV show would go down, and just great. He just nailed like the 90s and 80s and 70s of sitcoms.
But she's more interested in trying to locate Rocket because he's not answering.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they don't know that they've been kidnapped.
One, she's just concerned that this guy isn't who he says he is.
Yeah. And then they get into a fight because Peter's like, well, you're the one who encouraged me to come here.
Yeah.
And fight. No, but she's just like, I thought you already had a family.
Mm-hmm.
And then she leaves.
Dang.
And then Peter's all feeling sorry for himself. And
then his dad walks in, and one of my favorite scenes, and he explains how the song Brandy by Looking Glass is about them and...
about Gamora and...
No, he explains how
them. Yeah,
it's about...
They're the sailors.
They're the sailors, and the sea is like their purpose. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Nebula and Gamora find out, they see all the bones in the planet, and they're like, what is going on? So everyone now kind of is like, things aren't as they should be. Meanwhile, Peter says, you know what? I'm ready to be a god, basically. Mm-hmm. And then his dad is explaining to him that they need to destroy the universe, basically.
And well, he said he reveals to him that he has been... Well, he reveals the universe to him. Mm-hmm. And then he also reveals to him that he had been for... years and years, I mean like millions of years.
This is also in that like mature category of this movie.
Has been impregnating any species he can find.
Any Tom, Dick, and Harry you can find.
to see if the baby will take and like be a god.
Yeah.
Because he can't do it by himself. He needs his like an offspring god to basically like, and he kind of says it too, like be the battery.
Yeah.
that powers him taking over and like duplicating himself across the universe.
Yeah.
And Peter, it's kind of too late. He's submitted, but he also realizes that he's like, oh, so my mom wasn't important to you? And he's like, no, she was important to me. She's the first woman I ever loved, which is like probably because woman means human usually. So like that was the first human he ever loved. And saying that like, you know, I really did love her and it was really sad to see her go. It was really hard to put that tumor in her brain. And it's like, what? They do that great thing too.
They
where
do the Jaws
full focus thing.
Yeah.
And I would say that the eyes.
In his eyes, because
it looks really good.
They're like celestial. I don't know why I'm showing you.
Yeah. But it looks really
and then
good.
They turn into human eyes in that shot.
How many times in movies have you seen them change someone's eyes?
And it looks
so
stupid.
bad.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they made it look
I think
good.
it's because it looks like the universe, kind of. It has like stars in his eyes. So
it's
it
not
just
like,
looks interesting. It's not just like red or black or...
Yeah, probably. It looks so good. So yeah, he realizes that Ego killed his mom.
Yeah. And he crushes his Walkman. And then Peter's like, no way. And that's when the big final set piece happens. Mm-hmm. And all of our characters now meet at the planet. Mm-hmm. And they're all like, we got to get rid of Ego. So they start doing it. The Sovereign shows up. Whoopsies. and so it's all... it's cool. Like, this story's so cool because it like... all these... It's so many stories, and it's cool how they all naturally show up at the one planet. And, like, you get to have the final, like, everything right there, and you don't have to, like, bounce around to everything else. And then before you do your thing that you were going to do, because I just remembered what you're about to say. Actually, go ahead and see if it was what I thought.
Rocket and Yondu's conversation.
Oh, no, it wasn't. But go ahead.
Like probably one of the big, like a climax in terms of character development in the movie.
Yeah.
/ universe is when Yondu, Rocket, Groot, and Sean Gunn, I don't remember that character's name. They leave the Ravagers, they blow up the Ravager ship, and they're gone. And they're like, Rocket's like, okay, we're doing quantum leaps to get to Ego's planet so that we can get him. And they jump too many times, and it's a really funny sequence.
Very funny.
Not going to go into detail on how to describe it because it's insane.
You also get your Stan Lee cameo where you find out this whole time he's been going in disguise in each movie because he's talking to what are called the Watchers. And he says...
He's been going into disguise?
Well, because remember, he looks up at the Watchers and he goes, and then there was this other time where I was a mailman.
A Federal Express worker.
Yeah, because in Civil War, he was a Federal Express worker. And the fact that he says, and there was this one time, and there was another time where I did this. So you're getting the impression that every time he's cameoed in a Marvel movie, it's been to be like a secret agent of these alien race Watcher people.
Oh, I never got that.
Yeah, they basically explained his like story purpose to be in it. Not just like a cameo. He's actually been like spying on...
I never got that ever. That is so wonderful. That would be one of the best ones.
I know, it's got to be.
Yeah.
It's the funniest thing.
So,
by the way, those Watchers are so cool.
They're scary.
But so in the Civil War comics...
Yeah.
There's I've never read anything that has them in it until I was reading the Civil War comics, and they're having this debate about the whether they should do the Registration Act or not. And then one of them appears, and everybody's like, "Wait, what is this? What's going on?" And then someone just says like, "Oh, those guys don't interact in anything, but they show up to like record history," and
that's
means
so scary.
And they say that means something really bad is about to happen. That's kind of
what?
Yeah,
that is
cool?
So scary.
Yeah,
I wish that they didn't appear visually. That would just it's like a ghost.
Yeah,
that's like so scary.
Well, and it actually might have been. I'm pretty sure it was the beginning of Civil War. I'm like a quarter of the way through that whole run, so it might have been something else I read. But
that's still just so scary.
I'm pretty sure
if that's their only purpose.
But yeah, they like show up and they like record events.
They don't
that
intervene. Means they're bad omens.
Basically, yeah. And I'm like, okay, why are they not in every movie ever?
Maybe they're in the background.
Oh, that would be
if something
crazy.
bad happens in every movie. It wouldn't be a movie if nothing bad happened.
And what would be cool, I think I read somewhere that someone said this, but you know how they're doing the animated What If series?
Yeah.
And for the listener, on Disney Plus, they're gonna have like an animated show where they talk about the what ifs, like and make up like an alternate of what could have happened in a movie. It'd be cool if it was like hosted by a watcher.
Whoa, that would be cool.
Or something like that, or they were included somehow.
Yeah,
as like just passive people, but maybe I don't know. They're cool though. They're so
their
cool.
eyes are their projectors. That's so crazy. Okay, get back to the movie though.
Yeah,
that's so crazy. So they finish all their quantum leaps, and it's kind of like Yondu's like, "What did you do that for? Why do we need to go get them?" Because basically, it's like they're free. They can go do whatever they want now. They really, Rocket and Peter pretty much hate each other's guts now.
Yeah.
Why would they need to go save them?
Uh-huh.
And Rocket's like, I need to go do it. Go save them and rub it in Peter's face.
He'll never be able to
live it down that I saved his life. And Yondu's just like, you're crazy. That is not a reason. It's just like, that's insane. He's like, but he's much more eloquent. It's like
yes.
He's like reciting, not reciting. He's delivering a sermon to him because he's just like, you do bad things and you don't really know why.
And you hurt people on purpose. And
you hurt as soon as people start getting close to you, you hurt them and drive them away.
You don't know me. And he goes,
like, I know you. I am you.
And then there's that connection. And we learn now that like Yondu had been sending the children to Ego. But then when he found out what was going on, he kept Peter. And then he always told Peter that he just kept him because he was small so he could steal stuff. But he was actually protecting him.
Yes.
So there's all this like father dynamic stuff.
Yeah, and it's just like
really good.
The movie's like Shrek. It's like an onion. The layers are being pulled back.
Well, and another thing, so the whole universe is at stake again in a Marvel movie. And it's like, oh man, oh brother. But the reason this one works, and like it's just so good, is because it's so personal.
Mm-hmm.
If he was just like, if Ego was even the same thing, but he didn't have any relationship to Quill or Yondu, I don't think the movie would be very good.
Totally.
It's that connection. So it's like, yes, there is this huge universe threat, but it's really a personal conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Thanos works too.
Yep.
So, just great.
Yeah, it's so wonderful.
Ego's up there on my favorites of the villains.
And Kurt Russell is the obvious casting choice to me.
He's so good.
Yeah. Also, they do a pretty good, like, I buy that's his dad. Like, they look alike.
Oh, I never, like, pay attention to that sort of thing.
And it's not, like, crazy. They don't look alike. Really, if you looked at them in real life, no.
Yeah.
But their hair is kind of similar, like their type of hair. So, sometimes that's really all you need.
Wind-blown hair.
Yeah, sometimes that's kind of like all you need for stuff like that. But it's like, yeah, I buy that.
Yeah.
I can be his dad.
So now, big final battle. A lot of great jokes. The bomb with Groot, which we kind of already discussed. Mm-hmm. How are we going to discuss the battle?
This part is all so visual. But Mantis, her true or her original purpose, basically for existence, was to help Ego fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of all she knew to her extent of what she can do. She does also know that she's an empath, so she can like help people with their feelings.
Yeah.
But he's getting really crazy, and she makes him fall asleep.
Yeah.
I just think that's an important thing to touch on.
Yeah.
For her.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then the Sovereign people show up, and through a lot of other things that happen, like through the help of Nebula, they kill them, all the ships.
Yeah.
And then that's like Sovereign's done. Mm-hmm. They're out. So then it's just like Peter and his dad.
Yeah.
That's all that's left. And everyone else needs to get out.
Yeah.
So.
And the bomb gets planted. Groot does it successfully.
Mm-hmm. So they have like about 5 minutes.
And we have the greatest line in the cinematic universe where Yondu saves Peter from an explosion, mm-hmm. and he's going down. He's holding his arrow, and it's red, and he's in a very familiar pose. And I almost said Andy because he's doing the Andy laugh. Chris Pratt looks up at him and he says, "Ha, you look like Mary Poppins." And then he goes, "Is he cool?" Yondu says, "Is he cool?" And then Chris Pratt goes, Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Yeah. He was like, hell yeah. He's cool.
And then Yondu shouts out the best line. He goes, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all." It's the best, and it's actually like it's the perfect. It is the perfect line because there's actually so much emotion and there's acceptance between Peter and him.
Yeah.
And it's also just so funny, but it actually is like a character driving moment.
Yeah.
Which is why everything in this movie is so great.
I know. So then like when the bomb is detonated, well, the timer goes off for the bomb.
Yeah.
So they have about 5 minutes. Everyone's going to the ship. Rocket, Yondu, and Peter are pretty much the ones left. Well, technically Groot too. And it's like, hey, we need to get out of here. Like Peter needs to do his thing and kill his dad while we get out of here.
Yeah.
You know? Well, even though his dad's going to die. Anyway, Rocket's like, okay, let's go. And Yondu's like, I got to stay here. And he's like, I'm not leaving you. And he's like, no, I need this for me. I need to stay here and like save his son. Oh. So like Rocket gives him basically a spacesuit and a jetpack.
Yeah, because that's all he has left.
And only one of each.
Yeah.
So Rocket and
Don't
Groot...
break my heart again, Jordan.
Rocket and Groot make it back to the ship and everyone's screaming like... he's like, okay, we need to leave. We need to take off. And everyone's screaming like, where's Peter?
Yeah.
And he just can't answer. And he's like... Gamora tries leaving the ship and he knocks her out. Yeah. And he's like, I can't lose more than one friend today. And it's funny about that. Not funny, but like... It's almost like... he's talking about Peter... But I think that he's masking it further, and he's like, I can't lose, because he's also losing Yondu.
Yeah, he's losing two friends.
Yeah, and I think that he just can't bear to say it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm choosing to believe.
And then Yondu saves him, and as they're going up...
Well, his dad is dead. The bomb's detonated. He's gone.
He starts dissolving.
Yeah.
Cool animation on his dissolving
because it's
not just dust. It's like crumbly.
It's not even like
clay
sand.
Almost. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like those weird little things you can push in and they make shapes.
That's what it looks like. It's also another material that I can't think of.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of being a kid. But he said like before he dies, he's like,
he
he's
may
trying
have
to
been your father, but he wasn't your daddy.
No, not that part. Kurt Russell says to Peter, like, what are you doing? You could have everything. Like, why would you want to be like everyone else? And Peter says, what's so wrong with that?
Oh.
Okay, then you go ahead.
And then Yondu's saving him, and he goes, he may have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy. And you're like, oh, and you're
dang. Just you're sobbing. You're wiping up the tears from your face.
And then Chris Pratt does some real heavy lifting on the acting when he's like, no. Like,
he finds out he's the only one who has a spacesuit, so Yondu is going to die.
Like, great acting.
Yeah.
They pick him up. They say some last words about Yondu. They send him in the space.
They say the David Hasselhoff thing.
Oh, you go ahead.
Where Peter is standing over him with all of them. And he said, when I was a kid, I had a picture of David Hasselhoff and I would tell the other kids that that's my dad. He tells them who David Hasselhoff is. And he's like, David Hasselhoff got all the chicks. He had a cool car and he kicked ass. And he's like, Yondu, like, he kicked ass. He had a cool arrow, and he was a great. It's like, I guess my dad was David Hasselhoff.
Yeah.
And you're still crying, and you're wiping more tears off your face. And then Nebula and Gamora, like Nebula leaves, Gamora follows her. They share a little moment.
Yeah.
Of Gamora, like They hug, and Gamora's telling her like there are like so many other girls out there who are like us. Don't you want to go save them?
Yeah.
And Nebula is like, I need to go. Part of it, she doesn't know what to do because she has a sister now, you know? So it's like, she doesn't know how to be a sister, even though that's, it's one of the things like she is not raised in that. Neither is Gamora really. But, Nebula just needs to leave and she still needs to find Thanos. She's like, I'm going to go kill Thanos. And she's just like, Thanos. Gamora's like, I don't think that's possible anymore.
She wants to get the Fan Man.
The Fan Man. But yeah, Gamora's like, I don't think that's possible anymore.
Yeah.
But Nebula still leaves.
Mm-hmm.
So then it goes back to Yondu's funeral. They cremate him basically in that rainbow fire, which is so cool.
And then the Ravagers show up and they do the horns of whatever.
They do it.
They do the fireworks.
And they all salute to him.
And before that, there's that great scene where Rocket says like, "Wow, it's." Or no, it's that scene. He says.
But
he
before
says,
that, Peter. No, because of the song's important. The song's important. That's the only reason. Only reason. I'll let you say it.
Okay.
But Peter gets a Zune.
Yeah.
If anyone remembers what a Zune is, it's a knockoff version of an iPod. And
300 songs.
And Sean Gunn gets the Finn, the prototype Finn, and the arrow. And then he plays a Cat Stevens song, which is about growing up.
Yeah.
And you're just crying alone because it's a Cat Stevens song. Okay, go ahead.
And then Rocket is talking to Quill, and he goes, his friends showed up when the Ravengers showed up, and he goes, and Chris Pratt's like, yeah, or Star-Lord, Peter, whatever. And then Rocket goes, even though he was a jerk to him all the time, yeah, and even though he stole batteries sometimes, because now he's talking about him, because him and Yondu are the same. And then Star-Lord looks at him and he goes, of course.
Ugh.
Oh, what a payoff.
Yeah.
And then the movie's about to end, and it ends on a close-up shot of Rocket shedding a tear.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Beautiful movie.
Yeah.
About fathers, about family. So great.
Yeah.
You have some post-credit scenes, most of them just funny goofs. You got the Adam Warlock scene. And I don't think you have any like setting up of future stuff except for that one.
You have Jeff Goldblum dancing somewhere around in the credits.
Which we didn't know he was in Thor at the time,
Yeah.
Jordan and I, and we were like, was that Jeff Goldblum?
Yeah, and we're just like, I mean, it's Jeff Goldblum. Why couldn't he just want to be in the credits?
Yeah.
He could if he wanted to. But then it made more sense.
Yeah, it made more sense like, 6 months later?
What if he's in Guardians 3?
That would be lovely. I would love that.
Oh my gosh.
He becomes a Guardian.
Oh my gosh. That would be funny though, because him and Thor have a history now. And Thor is potentially a Guardian now.
I know. If he is not a Guardian in the next movie, it's going to be like
wrong.
The biggest mistake of their life.
I know.
Because that setup, and especially with them, well, we'll get into that on Endgame, but the setup of them going off together is so great.
Well, he fits the bill. He has lost everything.
Yeah.
And so is everyone else. And he gains a family. Like he deserves, his character deserves to gain. I'm getting on a soapbox now, but he's got to be.
Well, and I think even though this idea doesn't excite you and I too much, hopefully they can pull it off. But I think part of the idea of having the next Thor movie have like, I don't know how this works, but
Natalie Portman
like becomes Thor or something like that.
Or
like,
that's interesting.
Like wields the hammer. So I would imagine that part of it is like Thor needs to now be like out there. He needs to be exploring. He can't like, he needs to be a Guardian for a time and like do this for a time. And so I think it's kind of like a mantle passing on, like from Batman to Nightwing, like Thor to Natalie Portman. Maybe. That's a thought I've been thinking about.
Well, I just can't believe that they got her.
I know, because she seemed like she didn't even show up. She didn't even do Endgame.
She barely showed up for the 2 movies. She sucked.
I know. And then in Endgame, they used footage from unused footage from Dark World, and then she did like a couple voiceovers like for new lines. So I'm like, does she even like this? So we'll see how that works. Maybe she'll have fun with Taiki.
Yeah.
But this isn't Thor. This is Guardians. And speaking of Guardians, the news we have: James Gunn is directing it. James Gunn is writing it, and it's going to come out in 2022 or 2023. That's what everyone
22
is assuming. But he has to finish Suicide Squad 2, which is about to begin filming, I believe, and is supposed to come out next year, I think, maybe 2021.
Oh, here's my fun theory.
And then he'll work on this.
Yeah, my fun theory. This is pre him getting back hired again for Guardians 3. But James Gunn got fired from Guardians or from Marvel because of tweets that he tweeted 10 years ago.
10 years before prior.
So he gets fired for him. Most of the cast is like, I'm not going to do this movie unless James Gunn is doing it.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because it's going against our contract.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal. Huge controversy. People taking out billboards in Hollywood basically to say, bring James Gunn back.
Yeah.
And then he goes from Marvel to DC to helm up
A movie about bad guys.
Yeah, so he became a supervillain.
A real life supervillain that got.
I mean, I'm so over the moon that he's in Guardians 3 again, but wouldn't it have been funny if he didn't?
Yeah.
And then it's just he's a bad guy now?
Yeah.
So
and
funny.
you know what's funny about him being the one who is writing and directing Suicide Squad 2? He might be the only director that signed on to that movie that I'm actually like, oh, I'm excited.
Me too.
Like, I will see the movie now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, even directors I really love, just jumping into that, like, dismal, like, franchise.
This
like,
is a lot about James
I still
Gunn.
wouldn't even, like, trust it. But with him, I'm like, I think he could actually crack it.
And with that being said, Suicide Squad is one of our least favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, it's in the bottom two.
Yeah.
That and Justice League. They're the worst two movies I've ever seen. I'd rather watch The Room with
I'd rather watch The Room.
Tommy Wiseau, because it's at least fun to watch.
Yeah.
But yes, can't wait for Guardians 3.
For those listeners, tell us who your favorite Guardian is.
Yeah, put it in the comments of our iTunes.
Yeah, I want to know your favorite Guardian and why. Don't just put the name. Tell me why.
Yeah, but if you just write I am Groot, that passes too.
Yeah, that's true. That passes.
Next week is Spider-Man Homecoming, and I am on tour right now at this very moment. And look up the tour dates if you want to. I think right now I think we actually have an off day today, and then tomorrow's Bellingham.
Wow, you have a great memory.
I try. And I have a new song out. It's called The Dance, and it's everywhere. It's streaming everywhere. You got to listen to it.
It's a really great song.
And there's probably a lyric video out by now. So, and it's not just like your run-of-the-mill lyric video. Like, I worked really hard on it, and
it's super freaking awesome.
I'm really
cool.
excited about it. So, anyway, if you support that way too, that's awesome. So, thank you for listening. Next week, we'll get into Spider-Man. I'm Groot.